Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping, and I'll be your host once again for this week's episode. Joining me on the show this week is Pablo Figueroa. Pablo is a technician out of Rochester, New York, and he works on the heavy line side of things, big diesel, semi-trucks, and things like that. We're going to chat about that today. He's even got a couple case studies that he'll quickly go through with us. We'll talk about the diesel side of things, challenges, at least that I face, trying to do some of the diesel on the light-duty side, and also the similarities between the two, because there definitely is some. We're also going to get into health, fitness, and general overall well-being as it relates to the automotive industry, but just our lives in general as well. So this is great to get to meet Pablo, talk with him. I enjoyed the talk quite a bit. Hopefully you will as well. With that out of the way, let's jump in. All right. Good morning, Pablo. How you doing?
Good morning, Sean. I'm doing good, man. Doing good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm very good. Saturday, it's nice out. It's been good out there. It's been busy. The beginning of March, kind of slow. You know, that time of year, February is like kind of the downtime in the auto industry around here, unless it's super cold, which it wasn't. But it, like the last week and a half, it's like it really started to ramp up. So I'm hoping that continues. So.
Oh yeah.
How about you? What do you got going on?
Lots of work. I kind of work for a fleet, so it's pretty consistent.
Okay.
So, winter stuff, now going into spring, all the winterization now we don't have to do, but still there's a lot of maintenance to go on, and
sure.
always the check engine lights, man. All the electrical part, that never stops over here on the north.
Are you in Mission State?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yeah, we're not. So it's voluntary if people want to get their check engine lights fixed. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And lots of people do, but definitely not everybody. And you just kind of throw, hey, the ball's in your court. Here's what it needs. Do you want to fix it? And it all depends on, their finances or their care for what is going on with the vehicle. But I always thought that'd be interesting to work in a state where you have to fix it. Like, otherwise you don't get registration. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that definitely has to be taken care of. There cannot be no emission lights, no engine lights. They put the opacity tester on the exhaust, make sure your opacity is good.
Okay. So they're actually doing tailpipe testing there. Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they do the tailpipe. Nothing that has to do. They connect the code reader. If you have any, if you have any codes that are outstanding or anything like that, then they won't pass.
And I think in some states they check the monitors, and so many monitors have to have run and passed in order to get the green light. Okay.
Correct. If your monitors don't pass, then you don't pass.
I've watched some of the videos because I taught the emissions class at the college that I worked at. So we went through and I showed the students like, hey, this is what's in other states. Maybe you move there and it would be important for you to know. Or I could 100% see this happening where it's a standard everywhere. A lot of times it's up to the state, but with the way things are going with, green and EV and all that stuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see it everywhere. And so it's good to know about it. But yeah, that, the VIN has to match when it connects to the car. You can't have codes in there. The monitors have to run all this stuff in order to get registration for your vehicle. So, I got, like I say, well, and even safety inspections too, same sort of thing, like where, to some degree, people are being forced to fix their vehicles. Obviously, good for the industry. It's more work for us, but.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Since I'm on the heavy side of things, it's called Class 8, which is the 18-wheelers, those big 18-wheelers with the long 53-foot, van behind it.
Sure.
Or trailer, as they call it. So on that side, they do what's called actual DOT inspection. So that's, you pretty much do a complete inspection, bumper to bumper, from to back to check, your brakes, and up here, with the rotting, up here in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
The salt takes a toll on the frame. So if there's any rotting going on with the frame, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, we check lights, horns, brake lines, brake lining, all that stuff. Basically, it's all safety stuff. So if that doesn't pass, also, you don't get the DOT inspection certification, so you can't be on the road either.
Yeah, and I don't work in the heavy line stuff, but I believe we have that here for the DOT inspections on the big trucks and things like that. Yeah, actually, that'd probably be a good place to start. Do you want to give everybody kind of the rundown of what you do in the auto industry, how you got there?
Absolutely. So I'm not your typical, my dad was a mechanic or my uncle was a mechanic and I followed them or they taught me whatever. Even though my brother is a mechanic, I was never into the stuff. I was a little bit, but not much. So, straight out of high school, I'm from Puerto Rico, by the way. So, I lived half my life in the States and half my life in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Graduated from high school over here in the States. And after that, I wasn't sure what was I going to do, college or whatever. So I went back to Puerto Rico, kind of stumbled around jobs or whatever. And then, I contacted my brother and he said, well, why don't you get into the mechanic stuff? And I was like, well, I don't know crap about that stuff. So, but anyway, I figure why not give it a try. So I came back to the States, went to the same, diesel tech school that he went to, which was, at that time was called Engine City Tech. They got bought out by Lincoln Tech. I don't know if you're familiar with Lincoln Tech.
Yep.
So they got bought out by them. But anyway, did my year there, year and a half, I think it was, and just took off from there. Got a job at this small towing outfit in Jersey, and then from there moved a couple places. Went from Jersey to New York, and from New York I went back down to Florida. Then from Florida, I came back to New York. Then from New York, from Jersey, and then from Jersey went back up to Puerto Rico, and then now I'm back over here. But
did you do the mechanical work out in Puerto Rico too? Yeah.
I've done mechanical work ever since I graduated from tech school, which was in '98.
Okay. Is it any different down there? I mean, is it tougher to get parts? Is the process?
Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty much the same laws as the States because it's a Commonwealth.
Okay.
But the part situation is very, very, very rough because of the shipping. So it's you order a part and sometimes it's next day, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month.
Okay.
That's a big issue over there with the parts. But yeah, I worked at dealerships and I've worked at fleets, so I know both ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to get into that now or later on, or
sure. What brands for the dealerships did you work for?
So pretty much at dealership, I did most of my learning because it was at the early stage of my career. Was with International. I don't know if you remember.
Okay.
So great trucks. They were heavy on the medium duties. Then they went into the heavy duties, which is like the 11 and 13 liter engines. And they flopped in that area back then.
Okay.
But anyway, it's that's where I learned most of my diag end of it at the dealership, and I'm pretty sure any dealer guy that you talk to, they could tell you how much pressure it's involved working for a dealership, especially when you're working on for warranty stuff.
Okay.
But we weren't flat rate. I haven't worked flat rate. I did work flat rate for like maybe 2 weeks, and that was at a Pep Boys, and I was trying to do like a second job type of thing. But
got it.
Flat rate's not for me, man.
So for those the big truck places, it's just straight salary, or is there any incentive base?
There are some dealers that do flat rate.
Okay.
At the particular dealer that I was in Jersey, it was hourly.
Okay.
And there are incentives. You know, you work at a certain percentage billable hours, and you get incentive every month, every 3 months, or something like that.
Got it.
Yeah. So it all depends what dealer you work for.
Okay. So did you go primarily towards the diagnostic part, or they have you doing everything in a shop like that? I don't know the heavy side of things at all.
On the heavy side of things, you pretty much have to be an all-around guy if you want to make the good money.
Okay.
Well, back then it was more like that. You had to know your suspension, you had to know your drive line, you have to know your engine, you have to know your cab side of it. So pretty much you had to be well-rounded because we did everything. We did anything from in-frames to brake jobs to diag of electrical, crank no starts. Like you said the other day, I don't know why they call it crank no start, because if it doesn't crank, it doesn't start.
Right.
But yeah, we did a little bit of everything. Since it was in the early stages of my career, I wanted to grow more on the diag side. So I did mostly PMIs, what's called PMIs. It's like when you pre-deliver a truck.
Sure.
Or PDIs, I'm sorry, pre-delivery inspections. And I did that pretty much for like a year. Like I said, when you begin, as you know, in this career, when you start at this career, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. So you have to start with your oil changes, your inspections, and all that stuff. So
take what you can get. Yep.
Exactly. So, so after that, they saw that I was really interested in the diag side because I kept shadowing other people and asking questions, really interested in the electronic side. So they gave me a chance. This guy took me under his wing pretty much, and he showed me pretty much everything about diag. And on the diesel side, it's mostly check engines and no starts.
Okay.
Some low powers. Back in the days, it was more mechanical. So I loved more of the diag side, even though they kept throwing at me since I was growing. They throwing at me brake jobs and transmission job, clutch jobs, and stuff like that. But
for something like that, where you're doing the heavy line work, like clutches and stuff like that, it's got to take more than one person to do some of this stuff, right? Or is this a single man job on the big semis?
No, it's a single man job.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you got special jacks, like for example, the clutch job, that you got to pull the transmission out. You're talking about a big 10, 13, 15 speed transmission.
Yeah.
The thing weighs like freaking almost 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you got these jacks that are specially made for, to take out these transmissions. So,
okay.
It's a pretty much one-man job. And then the clutch, back in the days, a lot of guys, still till today I see it, and I regret it because I did it too. You're young and you don't know any better.
Yeah.
You grab these 15-inch clutches,
muscle it up there.
Yeah, you muscle it up, and there goes your back, But,
sure.
But now they got, clutch jacks that,
okay.
It helps you bring it down. Flywheel jacks that you bring down this heavy ass flywheel down,
Yeah. So, oh yeah, you see it in the light duty stuff too. Guys throwing transfer cases up with just hoisting it up, one person, and okay, yeah, impressive he can do it, but yeah, you pop a disc or something like that, you're not going to feel so great about doing that. So
no, and as you get older, your body will let you know.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, then from there, like I was saying, I progressed more on the Diag side, and but back then, it was something I want to touch with you was because I keep hearing on the podcast was with the scoping. Back then that was unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays it's like everywhere. And how did you get into the scoping thing?
So, I mean, I got introduced to it a long time ago when I was in tech school. Actually, we used the Snap-on Vantage to look at a network, and I understood it. I didn't really understand the value of it, and even into my career, like we had one at the shop. It was some off-brand. I think the Mac tool guy sold it to us, and rarely used it. Like most techs, you only pull it out when you're in trouble. And then you don't understand necessarily how it works or what you're looking at. And you've never seen a known good for what you're hooked up to. So you're like, I don't know. A couple times, as a just average tech, it helped me out. I remember like a crank sensor on a Dodge that, we had put two different ones in, and it helped me out just to see, okay, was there a signal? But I didn't use it a whole lot. And then when I got into teaching, when I made the transition from tech to teacher, I was doing all kinds of research. And that's when like the YouTube channels, like the Scanner Danners and the Facebook groups, I see all these guys doing these really, really cool tests, and how they're able, to make assessments of the engine mechanically, or if you're looking at ignition and networks and stuff like that. But the mechanical stuff really drew me in, like relative compression and the pressure waveforms and stuff like that. I'm like, I had no clue you could utilize it for something like that had you put in the effort to understand the waveform and correlate that to a mechanical component. It was just wild. And so I was all in at that point, and I spent an enormous amount of time trying to catch up because I had just, like most people, just didn't really care that much, out in the field. I could do most stuff with a voltmeter and a test light without issue. And to be totally honest, a large majority of that's still true. Like I'm still using, a test light, and I'll pull out my U scope a lot. But man, having that ability to utilize the scope when you need it, when that is the tool to fix the job, like there's nothing else going to do it. I just had a Jeep the other day where the shop spent a considerable amount of time trying to figure out some misfires on this thing. And a relative compression test is like, you're done. Like, there you go. You got one side of the engine that is all low compression. Here's the picture. There's really no, I mean, obviously they could tear it down and figure out what's going on, but for diagnosis, like, hey, we're done. We're moving on. And instead of swapping parts around and, oh, well, the fuel trim, because the guy, understandably, I've been there, is like lost in the weeds, right? He's like looking, oh, the fuel trims are doing this and the O2 sensors are doing that and the misfire is moving. And, again, like relative compression, like, hey, we're done. Don't worry about the fuel trims. You have 3 cylinders with low compression. Yeah. Like that's got to be fixed before you're doing anything with O2 sensors or fuel trims or anything like that. But yeah, so that's what really drew me in to it, was how people were utilizing it with mechanical components.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the relative compression, with International, within their Diag software, they have a test which is actually a relative compression test, and
through the scan tool.
Through the scan tool, yeah. And
okay.
Excuse me, and then it gives you like a layout of each cylinder reading, and then you go based on that. But yeah, like the scope, we really don't use it much in the heavy side. I actually bought a scanner with the scope in it, the Snap-on Zeus, but that was back in 2017 with plans of opening my own shop in Puerto Rico when I was over there. But it didn't go through for whatever reason, and now I have this scanner, freaking $10,000 scanner, and I I was planning on selling it, but the more I thought about it, I want to get more into the scoping side of it. And I already have the scope in there. So, why sell it? So.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know to snap on, but I've heard so many people talk about how it's awesome to have the scan tool and the scope, same component right there, switch back and forth. Like that does seem pretty handy.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But yeah, like I was saying in the dealer side, that's where I learned most of my diagnostics.
Okay.
So after the dealer, I got into a fleet. I went to the fleet side of things. And my first experience as a fleet tech, I didn't like it at all because in a dealer, you're going at 100 miles an hour, and in a fleet, you're like at a standstill. It's like you came to a halt. It was a lot of services, a lot of oil changes, a lot of brake jobs, a lot of just manual labor. So I felt like, kind of like you when you went into teaching, you didn't have the practice, the hands-on, and you wanted to get back into it. That's why you got into the mobile thing. Well, I kind of felt like that in the fleet, at least that one where I was. I felt like I wasn't gaining anything. I wasn't getting better at anything. I wasn't using my brain enough, So I decided to move on from there, and I decided to go to another company, which there I kept doing my diag, what I like doing.
Okay. What does that, generally consist of, like you were saying, pretty much check engine lights, no starts, things like that? And do you have a lot of electrical issues on those trucks?
Well, nowadays, as you know, I heard a past podcast that you had the 6.7 issue with the after treatment system. That's mostly what it is nowadays. So
okay.
It's basically most of the check engine lights are related to after treatment systems.
Okay.
Because the diesel engine is a very dirty engine. And,
sure.
And they put all these components to monitor the emissions and to try to keep it clean and all that stuff. So, you got all these problems with all these sensors, the particulate matter sensors, the NOx sensors, as you mentioned in that podcast. You got your pressure differential sensor that reads the pressure differential across your DPF filter. So that's mostly where these check engine lights come on.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. I still have done zero education for myself. I'm trying to do a million other things at the moment, but what's your approach to, you got a DEF system code on something like that? Like what is your personal process? I'm sure it depends on the code, but for instance, I had this Ford the other day, and I actually have one on Monday too. I keep getting called in because, hey, can you program this? And there are updates. And so I'll get in there, and then of course I'm involved, but it's a 207F, which is like DEF system quality or performance or something like that. What is your approach to something like that on a diesel?
Okay, so if you have so the code numbers are kind of different from the light side to the heavy side, but it's very relative. So if you have a code, like you just mentioned about DEF quality, that automatically indicates, at least on the heavy side. To me, I would look into it's the leveling valve that goes inside the DEF tank.
Okay.
So inside that DEF tank, that leveling valve it's a multi-purpose sensor. So it monitors the quality of the DEF, it monitors the temperature, and it monitors the level, of course. And it has a heating element as well.
Okay.
So again, I'm speaking on the heavy side perspective of it.
Sure.
So when it comes to quality, a lot of times we've been having issues with that leveling sensor. Even though it's a level sensor, it's a quality sensor.
Gotcha.
So if I have a truck with a quality issue, and again, when you first plug in, when you have an after treatment code, a lot of times you're going to have a whole bunch of other codes. Mm-hmm. So on the truck side, at least, I don't know on much on the car side, but there's freeze frame data on the codes.
Okay.
So basically what I do is I look at all my codes. I look how many counts I have on the codes because it also records the counts, how many times it occurred. And then usually it's the highest one that's giving you the issue, the highest count.
Okay.
But I still look at the other codes, even if they're not active. I still look at all the codes, active and inactive. And I open the freeze frame data and I look at the timestamp. When did it happen? Did this code happen first? Then this one occurred because of that code. So you look at the hours on the ECM when it happened and the current hours and then the actual hours that the code actually has stamped on it. Then you could actually go through each component, like, was it def? Was it injecting def at the time? Was it the truck at an idle? Was it going down the highway at whatever speed? So you could look at all this and kind of analyze how to approach the problem.
So they give you pretty thorough information in that freeze frame data for those.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's getting better every time. They give you more and more information.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably is quite a bit on the newer vehicles too, but I remember the older stuff on the gas side of things. You get a freeze frame and it's great, okay, maybe you could tell vehicle speed or RPM, but it always seemed like the data PID that I wanted to see, it just wasn't there, wasn't recorded, because it's just doing on the gas side, just global data, which is relatively basic data. Some of it's important, but again, like, if I'm going after a specific sensor or something, it didn't have anything in there. And then sometimes the manufacturers, I think it really depended on the manufacturer. Like GM would have their own, like you could look at the global OBD2 freeze frame data and it would have basic data PIDs, but you could go to the GM side of the scan tool, which is like the factory side. Mm-hmm. And they'd have a much longer list. They call it failure records, but it's the same thing. And then that would be more detailed. But for whatever reason, it just always seemed like the code that I was after, it didn't include the data PID that I wanted to see.
Of course.
And also, it's like, when exactly did it take that snapshot if I'm dealing with an intermittent problem, right? Did the failure happen and then a minute later, I don't know, 45 seconds later, did it take that snapshot and whatever was happening changed? So I always take a look at freeze frame. It's definitely useful, but I've had lots of instances where I take it with a grain of salt, considering what I'm doing,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it can throw you, for a loophole. You can go down that rabbit hole and get lost and spend a lot of time looking at this freeze frame. But once you get used to it and do it so often, you already kind of know, what you're looking for. Like I said, I mainly look at the timestamps. When did it happen? The code versus whatever time is actual on the ECM. So back to the operation of the after treatment. I know the cars don't have this system, on the gas or electric engine or stuff like that, but
they're talking about it though. I guess
really?
It's coming down the road for gasoline stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
No
So we better learn it now.
Man. Oh yeah. My goodness. Yeah. You guys are in for a treat. Yeah. Because these codes actually cause these vehicles to go into what they call a D-rate mode, or you guys call it a limp hump mode, or however you want to call it. But it gradually derates the truck. It depends on the code. You could go into a 55% D-rate, then a 25% D-rate, then a 15% until you get like a 5% D-rate. And, you're pretty much stuck on the side of the road because your truck won't go over 5 miles an hour. And all because your level sensor's bad. It's kind of ridiculous a little bit like that, but that's the government for you,
Yep.
But
you see that. I get calls a lot for that sort of thing. Like, and the call to me, because I'm doing programming, is, hey, can you reset this? Can you clear this out? All right. Not necessarily how do we fix it? Can you clear this out because my truck doesn't go anywhere. And, I try to explain, well, you guys got to fix the problem. And then if you're not able to reset it, I can. I've run into a couple Dodge, the Cummins, where they did fix the problem and it still wouldn't clear, and it required some programming, some updates and stuff to the PCM. That's, I'm sure, very specific circumstances, but that's where I get pulled into this quite a bit, is updates for the software and these things. Because, they definitely seem to be problematic for sure.
And it all depends has a lot to do with the manufacturer.
Okay.
Some manufacturers are more stricter than others. I work on a lot of Peterbilt trucks, and Peterbilt's pretty strict with that kind of stuff. To the point where, a lot of times when a vehicle go into a D-rate, even after you fix a problem, let's say you change a knock sensor, right, and you fix a problem and you're confident on your fix, you have to put it through what they call a regeneration. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I did one the other day on a Ford, and it sounded like an airplane was going to take off in the shop there. And you could like feel the heat coming out from underneath on your feet. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want to touch that now or later, but I mean, you have to go through this regeneration. You have to go through the, sometimes you got to run the SCR system test to make sure, because, it's two systems. A lot of people just talk about the SCR part, but you got your DPF part also. So you got to go through this, and a lot of times even that won't reset the system to where it'll take away the D-rate. So you would have to go into the software and eliminate the D-rate, but then sometimes you have to do like a drive, drive it down the road. I forgot what they call those when you have to drive to reset it.
Okay.
So you have to the drive cycle. I'm sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
Had a brain fart there. So you have to do a drive cycle of a certain amount of miles at a certain miles per hour down the road. You can't touch anything, the accelerator, the brake. There can't be traffic. I was trying to do that in Puerto Rico when it's an island, 100 by 35. And there's like one highway. There's traffic all the time. So try to do that, right? So at that point, you would have to call up, make this case so that they could send you like specific rights for you to reset it using the laptop.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So it gets kind of frustrated sometimes with that.
Yeah, that's I could have used that on this Ford that I actually don't even have a resolution for it. I mean, it sounds almost identical to what you're talking about. Is the shop replaced a ton of components in order to fix this DEF system, NOx sensors and like everything with the DEF, the, new fluid and the sensors and pump and injector and all that stuff's brand new. Yeah. It is not cheap. And that, the warning message will still not go away, and it's counting down until you're limited to so many miles per hour. And we ran it through the regen, and what I could find in service info was like, hey, you need to go drive this thing for the computer to see that the system's working properly in order to clear the light. And there's no other way to do it. And we tried doing that. So the issue was I had been there a couple times to try to help them out with this. I did the update to the software first, didn't do it, came back, tried to reassess. And I was looking at the data PIDs that it had available in the PCM, and there was no pressure being built up for the DEF system, according to what I was seeing on the scan tool. So I'm like, you guys got to fix this first. I don't know, what it was. And so they actually called me later this week, said, okay, we see it on the scan tool. It's making pressure now. The pump's working. I don't know what they did. So I'm going to revisit and see if it's just something where we got to drive it, or is there something else going on? A lot of people have told me the EGR is where I need to look next, because that could cause an elevated NOx level. No other codes. It's just this 207 DEF system issue, or it's I should get the exact name of it, but it's DEF system. Here, I'll look it up. I got a computer right here.
And what does the troubleshooting say about it?
Well, that's the That's the challenging part. Okay, so P207F is defined as reductant quality performance. And they do have you go through, and you're supposed to look at the injector pulse width and the pressure that's built up in the DEF system. I think that's why I was looking at it when I was there. And it should build it up to like 72 PSI for the pressure, and then you should see the computer commanding the injector to go, and then it says to drive it for X period of time while that's happening. And I'm assuming at that time the computer's looking at the NOx sensors to say, okay, it's working. So my limitation thus far has been, I'd like to look at the NOx sensors, which I can, but I don't know the numbers I'm shooting for because I wasn't able to find that in service info as far as what's good. What's the computer's window that it's shooting for? Can I visualize that and see, is this actually doing its job? Or like people had mentioned to me, is the EGR an issue where we're elevated NOx levels because of that, and it's not necessarily the DEF system's fault? I don't know. That's kind of where I'm going to go next, is drive it and just try to see what I can see on the scan tool. But, you know, it's like anything else that you're unfamiliar with. Like,
yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If I'm trying to assess a catalytic converter, right, yeah, I can use the CARS monitor, which is probably the best way, but I can look at the O2 sensors, and I know if that's a bad cat, I can see it. Like, I've done enough of it. I'm very familiar with the operation. I can say, yeah, your cat's not doing anything there before the monitor even fails it. But with this system, I'm, just not as familiar with it. So I'm a little bit in the dark as I go into it.
Gotcha. It sucks when you're in the dark, man.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, so now it sounds like it's like the code says, a performance issue. Mm-hmm. With the DEF system. I mean, what I could say is they do go based on, when it's a performance issue, they do go based on the NOx readings. So that's solely what they go based on, NOx, because you got your inlet NOx and you got your outlet NOx. So it compares the inlet that's coming out of the engine, which I believe is right after the turbo. So it compares those readings to what's coming out of the SCR. And it has to be, in their threshold, as they call it. So if it's not in that threshold, it will, set a code. So, I mean, yeah, it could be with the EGR system causing high levels of NOx. But I've seen the SCR system is supposed to compensate unto a certain point, to eliminate those NOx, So
Gotcha.
if it's passing that threshold, like I said, yeah, it's going to throw the code. But did they? I'm not sure how it is on the lighter side of the industry with the pickup trucks. But do they have what they call a decomp tube?
I am not sure.
Okay. So the decomposition tube is where your DEF injector is supposed to be in. It's mounted on, physically mounted on.
Okay.
And
yeah, it very well could.
So, and from there, it sprays into the decomposition tube, and that's where it hit the exhaust gases and your chemical reaction. It turns into ammonia, and then it goes through your SCR, which, it boils it down to water vapor and nitrogen, I believe it is. So that decomp tube, at least on the heavy side, I've seen where the decomp tube gets plugged up, because I don't know if you've seen DEF after it dries up, it kind of like crystallizes.
Yeah.
So if did they change the injector, the DEF injector?
Yes, they did. And I think they even did like a flow test to it, like watching to see that there's actually DEF coming out of it too.
Yes. So where it mounts, that decomposition tube, I've seen where if the old dozer or injector, DEF injector, was what they call dribbling or throwing excessive DEF, it'll cause crystallization inside the decomposition tube and kind of like block the decomp tube.
Okay.
And that would also cause those type of performance issues.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, this is where when I do stuff on the gas side in my diagnosis, I can get to where I need to be faster because I did so much of the mechanical work, right? I took the components apart. I replaced all the CATs and O2 sensors and EGR valves physically, and I knew how everything was put together and the tube from the EGR that goes into the intake. Like, I knew all that stuff from physically having it in my hands. Mm-hmm. And again, on the diesel side, I never did it, right? So when I'm reading about these components, I could physically look at them maybe, but I've never had them apart. Yeah. And so that, I mean, it just goes to show, like, really understanding how something works is going to help you figure out what's wrong with it so much better. And actually doing the work on the vehicle is going to be huge for working through to get a solution, you know?
Absolutely. You know, that's what it boils down to, man. It's you know, that's where the experience comes in, you know?
Yep.
And, but, you know, I listen a lot to your podcast because a lot, even though it's, you know, on the car side, it's a lot of it when it comes to electrical, it relates so much.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. That's the thing is, at least we can apply some of the stuff that we know to other things. It's just more nuts and bolts. Just how are they arranged, right?
Exactly.
Figuring out that stuff. It's not that can't figure this out. Just have to spend the time to get your head wrapped around exactly what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Do the research. And I know Scanner Dan has been talking a lot about the, you know, getting paid, you know, correctly for doing the research. And he's absolutely right.
Yep. It's, and that is a tough one out there. It always has been, is getting paid correctly for the diagnosis of this stuff. It's undervalued for a number of reasons. You know, but man, for somebody who can actually get in there, get to a solution, figure it out, you should be getting paid, you know, a decent amount. But there's so much that goes into that, and the flat rate I think is a big driver on our side of things against that, because it doesn't necessarily reward that. It rewards somebody who can hang parts and make a good guess. Right. In a short amount of time. If you're good at guessing, if you can play the odds on stuff, you're rewarded for that, plain and simple. And your boss is happy because the shop's making money, you're making money, and it just continues that way.
It kind of sucks because you don't grow, you know? Exactly.
Yeah. You're hobbling yourself by doing that, because you run into the one where you can't. But it's like a lot of shops, you know, like I worked at a Firestone. It's kind of the way it is. Those cars, they either call somebody in or they send it to somewhere else, and they just keep blasting through the gravy where they can play the Identifix top hit game. And that's enough for them to make the profit that they want. Right. Yep. And so it sucks for a tech to go in who actually is interested in the diagnosis, wants to make that, you know, their career or part of their career. And your paycheck's going to be negatively affected if you decide, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to try to solve all these electrical issues and intermittent problems and things like that. So it's just, there are shops out there. There are people out there, obviously, you know, Scanner Danner, Mario talks a lot about it, Mario Rojas. There's definitely people out there that are pushing to make that change in the industry. But for your average guy going out there, you might have to do some searching to find a shop that's going to pay you accordingly.
Yeah. That's also the pay scale, right? You know, and on the text, I know when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned that, you know, you heard that our pay scale is higher than the regular car guy. But, I mean, yeah, in most cases it is. It's a little higher. But I mean, nowadays, because I've seen the progression and the changes, since a lot of people nowadays or a lot of shops are hurting for techs, you know, even a car guy can make pretty good money nowadays. You know, the kind of guy, they kind of got the upper hand, or we got the upper hand for once on how much we could, you know, kind of bargain with, right? On
yes,
how
definitely.
much we can get paid, because everybody's so short on techs that, you know, how much do you want? I want this, and they'll probably go for it,
Yep.
just to have another body in the shop, So,
Yeah.
But yeah, on the heavy side, I would say we get paid a little more because of that, right? Because it's heavier, the tires are heavier. Just to change the tire, we got special tools to change the tires,
Right.
So when you're dealing with heavier stuff, it takes a lot more toll on your body. Which another topic that I also wanted to touch was, you got to stay as healthy as possible if you're going to play the long run game.
Yeah.
Because if you just, like we talked earlier, manhandle all these things, there's special tools for like a tire, but a lot of guys don't like using that special tool because it makes them look, less of a man, I guess. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I use them, because it saves your back. It saves your knees, but, you also, you got to stay healthy, just try to eat healthy. You do, go to the gym and do your resistance training. You don't have to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, just stay healthy so your body could withstand, that 8-hour or 10-hour workday that, you're on your feet, kneeling, getting up, laying down, because, on the truck side, a lot of shop, there's no lifts. It's all on a creeper on the ground.
Okay.
So, I know on the car side, it's all lifts, most of it anyway.
Yep.
But
Yep.
With a truck, you're on your back.
Yeah, there's a heavy duty shop that I do go to on a regular basis, and they don't have lifts for those things. I mean, the building isn't big enough, even if they did. And I mean, I wouldn't even. I miss a lift for something like that. It would have to be insanely large. So yeah, you're on the ground, you're on your back. It's a tough thing. Because for a number of reasons, like when you're young and you get into it and, I'm fine. You just blast your body for 10, 12 hours and be fine, come back the next day. And so you don't necessarily, it's not intuitive that once you get older, you have to maintenance this stuff and you have to start taking care of your body because it's not going to bounce back the same way. Your joints and your discs and things like that are not going to hold up and rebound the same way that you did. And so all of a sudden you hit your 30s, you're like, oh, what is happening? And boy, if you can get ahead of that, start earlier with taking care of your body, it makes a huge difference. Just like you say, you're not going to be Arnold. Like that's probably not going to happen even if you try, but it's having the muscle support to your joints and to your spine is so incredibly important. And that will allow you to be, just not injured, so much more so than if you didn't do anything, right? If you just work. And that's the other tough part about it is work. It is physical. You're tired at the end of the day. So you really have to dedicate yourself to say, okay, I'm going to do some focused work outside of work so that I can stay healthy. And that is the tough part, right? You're drained at the end of a shift like this. How am I going to go, hit up the gym? But I think personally, once you get into that routine, you actually have more energy if you're, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, doing some exercise, you'll actually be more refreshed than had you done nothing. But that's, I don't know that you can tell me if you think the same thing, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Key thing that you said there was, also eating healthy. A lot of people, say, well, I eat healthy enough. I don't have to go to the gym. No, it goes hand in hand. You have to eat healthy to give your body the enough energy food wise so you can have the energy to do your gym workout, so you can have energy to do your 8-hour shift or whatever you have. So and me, since I work night shift, I start at 2 in the afternoon, but I always try to get at least that 1 hour overtime. So because I'm a family guy, so I got a family to support, right?
Sure.
like most of us. So it's you work at night, and you have your circadian rhythm, in your body, because your body is built to be awake when the sun is out and resting and sleeping when the sun is down, when it's dark. So when you're at night, you kind of have to train your body to change that rhythm to where so the energy that you're supposed to have when the sun is out, you got to convert that energy or transfer it over to when the sun is down. Okay. So that, because after the sun is down, I'm not going to lie to you, I just read up on this a couple of years back about your circadian rhythm and all that. And it's true, man. When that sun goes down, your body wants to go down as well. You start feeling the tiredness. You start feeling like the yawning and like, holy crap, what's going on? Like, oh, shit, yeah, that's right. The sun went down. Okay. It's time to sleep. Nope, you can't sleep yet. You got 5 more hours to go. Yeah.
Well, I got to imagine that could be tough too. You'd have to purposely arrange it to get enough sleep during the day, because obviously like having a dark room and no, distractions and things like that, that's got to be, it's hard enough to get sleep at night for me, to get my time in. But yeah, to do it during the day, it would be an adjustment period for sure.
Yeah. But what's great?
How long you been doing that?
The night shift. So I just started with this company back in August of 2022. But prior to that, I've worked other jobs that were night shift as well. So I it's not new to me. I know how to readjust. So it's something that I'm kind of used to. But you and again, going back to the younger guys, because, this industry, not a lot of younger guys wants to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. So, to go back to them, it's like, you got to take care of yourself physically in order to endure. Because a lot of times guys quit because, this is too hard. My body aches or this hurts or whatever. And they're like, yeah, this is not for me, but you have to, if you exercise, eat well, and take care of your body, you will endure. The body it's an amazing thing where it could adjust to anything. We got people living in Alaska and we got people living in Florida. So, you adjust to your surroundings.
Yeah, it's amazing, what the human body can do to adapt to a stimulus that you give it. And, it's exactly that. You don't do anything, right? Physical, your body's going to adjust to that. It's going to pare down the muscle, and that's what you get. But you give it the stimulus the opposite direction, and you'd be surprised, how much your body can do, with the right inputs, and if you take care of it.
It's fun. I don't know if you've seen that movie, WALL-E.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes. So, yes. I feel like it's coming true.
Right. Exactly. So, you look at that movie, it's like, holy crap, I don't want to turn into that,
right.
What I mean? That should be an encouragement right there.
But yeah, you extrapolate out, the way things are going, and you're like, well, that's totally makes sense that could happen, right? If they, virtual reality and AI and things like that become more prominent. I mean, what do you need to leave your house for? Strap on the VR goggles and go to work and have food delivered to your house. And okay, now you're floating around in a wheelchair thing or whatever.
Drinking 40-ounce sodas,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But man, it's taking care of yourself in that respect. Like I mentioned, like just you feel better, you have more energy. I went to the gym this morning actually before we did this, and
good for you, man.
I was feeling kind of groggy when I got up, and had a busy last couple of days. And when I was done with the workout, I just felt great. I'm just okay, I'm ready for the weekend. I'm pumped up. And if you can make that happen in the morning, I realize like not everybody's schedule works that way, or before work, right? If you have a night shift, if you could do the workout before work, man. I used to do that when I was teaching. I go to the gym super early, get my workout in. I was freaking ready to go when I got to work, where everybody else is, just sucking down their coffee, like rubbing their eyes and yawning. And I'm just like, out the gate, let's make this happen. And then you're done for the day too. It's a lot easier to find excuses later in the day for getting a workout in as opposed to early. Like you're going to run into less, catastrophes that you need to solve early in the morning as opposed to afternoon or evening. So if you can knock it out, then just make it happen. Get into that routine as my preferred way to go if I can swing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, if you can do it, if you can fit it in your schedule, absolutely. I've done both. Working night shifts, I've done both. I've worked out in the morning and I've worked out at night. And again, I don't want to get into all that because I feel we're spending a lot of time on this topic, but it your body goes into different states whether you work out in the morning or you work out at night. So it all depends what you want to do, whether you want to gain muscle or whether you just want to trim out and stay healthy. So but if you just want to trim out, stay healthy and stuff like that, the best way, like you said, it's in the morning. That's when you're gonna burn the most fat. Your body's in a catabolic state, and you go in there with an empty stomach, and that's when you're gonna burn the most fat. That's when you're gonna feel the best. And you're, like you said, you're pumped, ready to go.
Yep.
And that's the way to do it, man.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I'll keep talking about this all day because I'm passionate about it. But
I know, me too.
when you're doing, you get into a routine, I think what's important too is to change up what you're doing every so often too, because like you're talking about, your body's going to adapt, but you eventually plateau, right? They talk about like newbie gains, like you start working out and you're seeing all these crazy results, and then you hit a plateau. At that point, when you feel yourself leveling off, switch it up, right? If you're doing a bunch of weights, strength training, well, okay, go do some cardio, right?
Yep.
Do like, and you can come back to the weights or whatever, but that novel stimulus to your body is what's going to create the adaptation, so that if you find something new for it once you plateau, and you can keep cycling through things like that to keep progressing, maybe not in the same way, but in a different way. And you can still see results from what you're doing. And for a lot of people, like, me personally, I just like working out. I enjoy it, but some people want to see the change. They want to see something for their effort. And that's the way that I found to do it, is kind of just like, all right, I really feel stuck here. I'm not seeing the big results. Okay, let's try something different and see. And it keeps it fresh too, right? You do something too many times, it gets monotonous. You don't want to do it. It's like, same thing.
Exactly.
Change it up, and it keeps it fun.
You're absolutely right. When you change it up, if it gets too monotonous, like you said, your body gets used to that. So you feel like you're not getting anything else. You're not getting anything else out of it. So what you do is you change it so you can impact your body, and your body says, oh, this is something new, and then that way you get a better result.
Sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And like you said, I could also talk about this all day, but I love it. I love going to the gym. Like you said, you felt groggy before you went, and you came out feeling awesome. Why wouldn't you want that? It's
exactly
an awesome feeling.
There's studies where they've done where the results of regular exercise surpass that of any and all antidepressant medication. I don't know exactly how the studies are performed, but they look at people, say, okay, we're going to put you on a regular exercise regimen, and we're going to monitor these levels of your mood or depression or whatever it is that they gauge. And then they have group B where, hey, we're going to give you SSRIs or something like that, medication, and that the people who do that regular exercise actually get the same or better benefits than people that are taking medication. And that's just one area, right? But it's a mental thing too, not just your body. And there's science that I don't quite understand, but it actually improves brain function to work your body, right? It's part of your body. It makes sense, but that it actually helps you out in that aspect too. So there's
you're a podcaster. So have you heard of Andrew Huberman?
Yes. Yeah. Crazy smart guy for sure.
Oh, dude. I love his podcast. So he talks about that, but he gets so into detail with it that you kind of get lost. Cause like you said,
exactly. I'm like, I don't know what these words are.
He's talking about. Yeah. But yeah, it's awesome. I did, that's how I know about, all the circadian rhythm and day and the night and, how to train your vision. And like, it's awesome because he talks about both sides. He talks about the side where people who takes medication for whatever they got going on with their body, and then the side of natural ways of taking care of your body, with that same issue that you're taking medication for. So that's what I like it. I'm not a big pill guy. I hate taking pills. I don't even take pills when I have a headache. You know what I mean?
Same here.
So I always go for the natural side. I always exercise. I always try to eat as healthy as I can. Even though ever since I moved here, I've been eating a little crappier lately.
Is good food around there or what?
Oh my God, dude. When you're in Puerto Rico, it's great food. Don't get me wrong. There's good food in Puerto Rico, and I love the Spanish food side of it. But but like everything else, it gets kind of monotonous, right? You're eating the same thing over and over. Over here, you have so much variety.
Sure.
You have Chinese. The Chinese food is good. The Chinese food in Puerto Rico is horrible.
Okay.
You got here they call something a garbage plate. I don't know if you heard about that.
I can imagine just a big mashup of everything.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all this food, your mac salad with all your with your brisket or whatever. You could get it with different things. You could get it with burger. You could get it with chicken fingers. Then you got whole fries stuck in there with a whole bunch of mayo. Oh, you name it, man. But it's so delicious. I had an Irish one on St. Patty's weekend.
Oh, nice.
With corned beef. Oh my God, dude. That was heaven, But then, then you're at the gym like, why did I do this?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I absolutely love pizza, and I will destroy a pizza by myself given the chance. But yeah,
you're like my wife. My wife is like that. She loves pizza.
Afterwards, I'm just like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah. You go to a food coma.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so bad. It's so good.
But so that's the other thing. I don't know why we're just going to go with health and fitness because I like talking about it. Cars are cool too, but when you do the strength training stuff, it's so beneficial because you're actually going to put yourself in a situation where you can eat more on a regular basis and maintain a healthy weight, right?
Yep.
Okay, maybe you're not ripped or anything like that, but who cares? Like a healthy weight. When you do the strength training, the adaptation that your body's getting is you're adding muscle to your body. And again, you're not Arnold, but you are adding muscle to your body. You're putting expensive tissue on your body calorie wise, right? Just to maintain muscle on your body, you have to fuel that with calories, even when you're just sitting here.
Yep.
So you bring that adaptation in, and now if your body's a furnace, you're burning more fuel just being alive than the opposite. And so you're able to ingest more calories, which is great. I mean, who doesn't love doing that without putting on the weight because your body's going to burn it off. Whereas let's say I just did cardio, like I just went out and run every day and that's all I do. Like you could still be physically fit, but again, your body's adaptation is now, okay, we're going to do long, strenuous workouts that, and you're probably dieting at the same time. That's the traditional way to do it is I'm going to cut calories and I'm going to go for a 2-hour run or 2-hour bike ride. So your body's like, well, I'm not getting many calories. I'm forced to do long, strenuous workouts. I'm going to pare down muscle. I'm going to reduce the amount and become really efficient at the calories that you're giving me because I got to make this work with what you're giving me. Yep. So now your furnace is not burning much and you're not able to eat as many calories without putting on weight, right? That's the trap of doing diet and exercise that way.
Yeah.
Whereas you do strength training, resistance training, you actually, again, you increase the amount of calories you get and you can probably put in less time in the gym, to be totally honest, too, than doing a 2-hour run. So I kind of had my eyes open to that in the last 10 years or so. And it is a game changer, too. It actually makes life easier, I think.
Yeah. I mean, my routine is pretty fast. I go in the gym. First of all, I'm not big on energy drinks, but there's this one energy drink that kind of caught my eye. It's called Zoa. I mean, I'm not doing a plug-in or anything. Sorry if it sounds like that, but
that's all good.
So this energy drink has like 0 sugars whatsoever, and that's like my main thing, the sugar intake, right? So also diabetes runs high in my family, and thank goodness, knock on wood,
I don't have diabetes, so I'm trying to keep it that way. But anyway, so I just ran into this energy drink and I tried it, and man, I'll tell you what, man, I don't know if I'm 45 years old, so I'm going a little bit back. So the Bionic Man, I don't know if you remember the Bionic Man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. So I was on the treadmill, man, after I drank this, and I felt like the Bionic Man, dude. Just wanted to keep on going and going faster. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell's going on here, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, my routine is I go in, I do my cardio for like 20, 25 minutes. Get the blood going, get the heart going, everything going, sweat, everywhere. So that's just to burn off as much fat as I can from all the crappy food I've been eating, right? So trying to burn off as much as I can. But then I go hit the resistance training. So you hit the weights, get all your resistance training in, and then after that, I jump into my abs. So all this, believe it or not, it only takes me about an hour in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Now they say it's really important to rest between sets. I don't rest much. I try to rest maybe. I put the timer on my phone. I do like a 30-second rest in between sets.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people do a little more, like 1 minute, minute and a half, and I used to.
Yeah.
But that was when because I've been exercising since, oh my God, for a very long time. I was 150 pounds. And I wanted to get up, and it took me, believe it or not, 5 years to get to 190 pounds.
That's still pretty impressive, though. It is not easy to put on that much muscle.
No, because you think about it, most people are trying to lose weight. Here I am, I'm trying to gain weight, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And dude, that is so hard. Yes, it is so hard to do. And you got to lift a lot of heavy. Your joints feel it really bad, because all the heavy weight that you're putting on.
Yep.
But now I'm not lifting the heavy, so it's more about just staying fit, feeling good.
Yeah. Finding that place where your body's happy.
Yeah.
And the muscle memory thing is real too. It's like once you do that work to get there, it's a lot easier to maintain it than it was to get to that point.
You're absolutely right. And that's actually what happened. All the years that I put in of the heavy training, now if I stop working out for a couple months and then I go back to the gym, I'll get into shape like in a week. You know what I mean? Like your body automatically says, oh yeah, here we are.
Yeah, we've done this before.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like you were saying before that I forgot to mention was when you do resistance training, and depends on what training you're doing, there's trainings out there that'll help you even burn calories like hours and hours after you're done with your gym.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where the secret's at for it, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe we can swing this back to cars or auto stuff. You said you had a case study or two that you wanted to share?
Yeah. So I was working on, let's see which one I want to do first. Yeah, so I'll do the most recent one where actually I actually misdiagnosed this one at first. So I had this truck that came in for a check engine light. Again, it had to do with the after treatment system.
Okay.
And with these after treatment systems, they're for the DEF system. There are heaters in the lines, in the DEF lines. So you got your line that goes from your tank to your pump, and then from your pump to your DEF injector. So those lines, they have heaters for the wintertime because DEF freezes up pretty quickly. So in order to prevent that and prevent blockage and stuff like that, then, you got these heaters to maintain the DEF defrosted. So I had this code for DEF line heater 3. It was shorted to high source. So I'm looking into this code and I'm following the troubleshooting tree, and it tells you to check, on the truck side. They're on the troubleshooting trees. I'm not sure about the car side, but on the truck side, they're big on checking resistance.
Oh yeah, same thing.
So we use predominantly what we use is a ohm meter. So, they have you check resistance on the heater itself. They have you check the fuses, and because it's fused, they check the relay and stuff like that. Which, by the way, I just got into the whole thermal gun thing too.
Sure.
It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as I'm checking all this, everything is panning out. Everything is looking good. The circuit is looking good. But when I check the voltage at the line heater itself, at first it's supposed to be 12 volts when it's commanded on for the heater. Power and ground, it only has 2 wires. And then I was only getting, I think it was like 6 something volts. But remember, if the ECM is not commanding it on, you're not going to have that voltage.
So the power to the heater comes from the the computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then is it constantly grounded on the other side?
It is constantly grounded.
Okay.
Chassis ground, whatever, cab ground,
Gotcha.
But it's constantly grounded. And then the ECM sends the signal to the relay, and then the relay is going to send down, the power.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to go from the ECM to the PDC, which is your power distribution center where all your fuses and relays are. And then from there, it's going to go down to your heater.
Okay.
So I went from having 6 or 7 volts to then all of a sudden having a constant 4.7, 4.8 volts.
Okay.
So, and this is, mind you, after I wiggled all these wires and moving around and stuff like that. So I don't know if you heard the term tunnel vision.
Yeah, I live it on a very regular basis.
Okay. So in this case, I got tunnel vision. I got tunnel vision where I got stuck in my head where, okay, shorted to high source. Why am I getting these 4.7 volts consistently on this circuit? And a lot of guys out there might already know what it is, right? But at the time, I didn't even think about it. So I'm checking, why am I getting this constant voltage? So I'm disconnecting the harness piece by piece on each side to try to, see whether if it's coming from the PDC area, because, right, the only thing that could give it the voltage is it's either going to come from the PDC or it's going to come from the ECM itself. So, So what I did is I got to the point where I separated the PDC from the ECM. I literally cut the wire to find out to see if it's coming from the PDC or the ECM. So when I found out it was coming from the ECM, I was like, all right, this ECM's got to be shorted to where it's constantly supplying this voltage to the circuit.
Okay.
All right, order the PCM, throw it on there. Guess what? I still have my voltage. Like, holy crap, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So now you don't have the tunnel vision anymore. And as I was talking to one of my coworkers, he said, I ran into the issue where I've had that too, and it's because it's a 5-volt reference that the ECM actually constantly sends out a 5-volt reference to that circuit just to monitor the circuit, right? To see if the circuit is on or see if the circuit is off.
Okay.
So I was like, holy crap, so I might just have an open in the wire, and the ECM is not seeing the resistance of the def line heater, and it says, okay, we have an open. I'm going to constantly see 5 volts all the time. It's not pulling it down. So that's why I have my 5 volts all the time, because there's an open circuit. So I'm looking, I'm like, holy crap. So I started looking, and behind the def pump, the wire rubbed through and it broke the wire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, I got tunnel vision. I should have known. Hello, 5-volt reference. I think Scanner Dana had an episode where he called it a bias voltage.
Yep. Sure.
And of course, after you find the problem, everything, falls in place, and then you understand why.
It's funny. Yeah. Once you make a call on a component and it's the wrong call, your mindset totally shifts. Once you know, that PCM didn't fix it, I guess I should check this thing again. And it's like, well, why didn't I think of that before I put this part in? Why was I so convinced that this was the part where maybe in that moment had I tell myself, well, what if it's not the PCM? What should I check, or what should I look at again? And then it's easy. And I don't know how many times that's happened to me. I make a bad call and then I'm like, well, okay, well, it's not that. I have to go look at this. I'm like, oh, okay. What? Yeah. Tunnel vision. Yep.
It happens. I mean, it happens to the best of us. Again, it goes to show that it doesn't matter how many years you have in the industry, you still are going to make these bad calls. And the important thing is, like you've mentioned a lot of times, is that you learn from it. And you had an episode the other day saying that you're going I think you said it's good to start writing a journal on these issues, which I believe is an awesome idea, and I'm going to start doing it myself. Particularly for one of these instances, you know?
Yeah, it's been huge. Just to have notes to myself, especially with something like that with specific voltages on circuits, or even like where something is located on a vehicle and it's not clear in service info or wrong in service info, or how a computer acts in a certain situation. I'll just jot that stuff down, and man, it takes a while to build a library, a reference, but when you can use it later, boy, it's a time saver for sure.
Yes.
And I don't feel like it's cheating as much if it's from me, right? Like
exactly.
using Identifix, that could be a cheat to get you to the answer. But hey, I did this work before. I'm gonna use my hard work in the future.
It's cheating with inside the organization. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But and again with the writing down stuff, bringing back again Andrew Huberman. He has an episode where he interviews somebody, and where studies show that when you actually write stuff down, it activates, again, scientific whatever in the brain, but it activates a certain part of your brain that it will help you remember it, down the road or whatever. But just writing stuff down, something as simple as that, right?
Yep. Well, and that is true. We saw that in the college too, where physically writing something down will help with retention.
Yes.
But sometimes it will force you to question yourself too. Once you write something down, you're like, okay, I did this test, I got this result, I did this. And then you write it down and you're like, well, hang on a second. That doesn't make sense. Like, am I forgetting or missing something here? And I've done that where maybe I even fixed the car, but I like missed something within the testing or whatever. And I'm writing it down after. I'm like, oh, hang on. I gotta go relook at this particular, whatever I assumed here. And yeah, putting something down on paper or even just explaining it to somebody else. Sometimes you realize the holes in what you're talking about as you say it out loud. And it's a weird thing where like you can think past some things or just blank out some things. And then when it's out there in one manner or another, you see the hole and you're like, I got to revisit this and try to figure out what did I miss or what was I incorrect about there. So it's a helpful process for that respect too.
Absolutely. That's a good point that you bring up about, stuff that you actually might have missed. That's a good point.
Making case studies, right? Same thing. It's like you're trying to explain to somebody how you got through your process and this and that, and you recognize some holes that you had in the moment, where when I'm going to make something detailed, okay, now I should have done this here. I've said that a lot with stuff. I'm like, I should have done this, but that's, kind of hindsight, but it's helpful for the future,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The other case that I had was, something as simple as a seatbelt light, staying on the dash. So on a truck, really, they're not built to, it's commercial. So they're not built to carry passengers, right?
Do they have airbags?
Yes. Some of them do, some of them don't. Most of them don't.
Okay.
But yeah, it's mostly just a seatbelt. That's what they have. I'm pretty sure some new ones might have it. I'm not sure. I haven't encountered that. But at least ours in our fleet, they don't have airbags.
Okay.
But I believe I've read somewhere that yes, they do make it with airbags. I might be wrong again. So, but yeah, this other case study was the seatbelt light staying on. And so if you have a seatbelt light staying on, of course, it's the driver seatbelt, right? So you're looking at that circuit, you're finding how it operates, and you're tracing your wires, and you're checking your fuses. And so I came down to the conclusion of where it need the clip, the buckle. Because that's where the wiring ends up. And this one was weird because usually when you activate something, it continues the circuit, right? So this one, it actually opened up the circuit, and that's what turns the light off.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was new for me too. I didn't know it worked that way. But anyway, I changed the buckle. I actually had to rewire because the buckle came with 2 sensors and the older style had 4. I'm not sure why, but trucks are kind of weird like that. But anyway, I wired it in. Great. Put it all back together. Awesome. Light went out. Yay. I started taking the truck out. Guess what? The light came back on. Like, what the hell? So I bring it back in. I'm rechecking again. Everything looks good. I even took the dash panel out because the circuit runs back there. And, this is all controlled by in these trucks, they call it a CECU, but pretty much it's just a body controller,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pinning it out at the body controller. I'm checking my continuity all the way from the body controller because it goes from the body controller to a fuse panel behind the dash, and then from there it goes to the buckle. So I'm checking all everything checks out. I'm like, damn, okay, what the hell can it be? So, we all say, oh, you're a Google mechanic or a YouTube mechanic, right? And sometimes it comes down to that because sometimes you just need other resources and other opinions.
Yep.
So I Googled this issue, and as soon as I read this, I'm like, aha, it makes sense. But at the time, I didn't think about it because I never dealt with it before. So anyway, this guy wrote down, make sure you check both sides, the driver and the passenger. I was never checking the passenger side because, this truck didn't have a circuit going to the passenger side at the buckle.
Oh.
Okay? Yeah, because a lot of times when they build, I'm pretty sure like it's in a car too, but in a truck, when they build things, they run wiring for certain options. Not that it's going to come with the truck, but the wiring is there.
Yep. Yeah. Same thing in cars.
Okay. So, and what happened in this one was that the passenger side circuit, underneath, when you open the door, that little panel on the floor.
Yeah.
So underneath there, of course, over here in great Rochester with all the salt in winter, well, underneath there, it's amazing how much crap you could find there. So after I cleaned everything up, all the dirt and salt and all the crap built up, it was actually the wiring, the signal wires that was going to the passenger seat that wasn't there because, of course, it didn't come with this option. It rotted and it was making contact wire to wire. So it was completing the circuit through the corrosion. It was completing the circuit through the corrosion, causing the light to come on. And I was like,
dang.
wow. This whole time I was looking only on the driver's side because who would have thought?
There's just one light. It's not individual side to side.
Exactly. It didn't say, like in most cars, it'll say the passenger seatbelt is not on. Or, the passenger airbag. No, not on the truck. It just has seatbelt. You guess which one it is. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that threw me for a loop, man. That really did.
Yeah. But something you'll never forget and, run into that again.
Most definitely not, man.
Yeah. That's where it's at. You got to get your butt kicked every once in a while, but that stays with you. It's that's part of your experience now going forward, so it's worth it. Absolutely. I had one question for you that it was something that I thought about doing, the whole teaching thing. I think you mentioned already kind of how you got into it and how you stumbled upon it because you applied because somebody retired and all that stuff. But I also thought about it, but my main focus of the question is, and I don't know if you had it, like, did you have like some people have like stage fright or a phobia of talking in front of people and get nervous and stuff like that? Because that's like my biggest issue. Yep.
Like right now I'm talking to you here, but I'm nervous as hell. You know what I mean? I don't want to say the wrong thing. And how did you overcome, if you did go through that, how did you overcome that?
Yes, I 100% had that. I'm actually a pretty big introvert and I had little to no experience talking in front of a group of people going into it. And yeah, I remember the first day just like sweating through my shirt. I was so nervous. It was rough for the first few weeks. of doing it. And you could tell in my voice, I was nervous. I was stumbling over some words, talking really fast, all the normal things that you see people, you can just, those are tells to say, okay, this person's kind of nervous or anxious about what's going on. And it's honestly just putting in the reps, is doing it over and over and over again. And each time you do it, you're a little bit more comfortable, and, you start to recognize, where you have hangups and where you're making mistakes. And one of the biggest things I found was just to slow down, and you most of the time actually get yourself across better to someone else when you just slow down what you're talking about and not try to go, when you're in front of a group of people, you kind of get this pace going and you're blah, 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 but just focus on slowing down your words, not to a boring point, but so that you can speak clearly, and a pause, used correctly, is good for you, because you can kind of think about what you're going to say next, but also it can, done right, it can help engage the audience too. But it honestly is just the repetition. Like, you gotta go do it. You can study things and read things to help you, and that's good. There's good advice out there, but doing it is the only way that you actually get more comfortable with it. It's just like anything else, right?
Yeah.
Just putting in the reps, and that can be done in a number of different ways too. Like, maybe like you want to work towards teaching, well, you can do other things in order to get yourself in front of a group of people. Like, you could do, lots of people look for training with like local community centers on automotive and stuff like that. And you can take that sort of group. I've never actually done one. I've been recommended a number of times, and I'd like to sometime if I had time, was Toastmasters, because they're all around, and it's a group that you get into, and their goal specifically is public speaking. And they have meetings where that's the goal, is to work on your communication skills in front of a group of people. And it's one of those things that's been on the back burner. Like, I would love to go do it sometime, because I know I still have communication issues. I got lots of ums and crutch words that I use all the time that I try to get better with. That was the other thing, is I think I said every other word when I first started, and now it's only like every 4 words, but I've made an improvement. And that's the sort of thing. So there's Toastmasters. I think there's some other groups like that, but just getting out there and doing it, and eventually your nerves calm down and you're more comfortable with it. And I still get nervous. I just did vision in Kansas City, and I just had a half-hour presentation, but I was incredibly nervous to get in front of those people. But I think to some degree that's a good thing, because it means you care about what you're doing, and you care about presenting a good class or whatever you're putting it on for the people. Whereas if you're not nervous in any way, shape, or form, you might not really care about what you're doing. It's not exciting.
Yeah.
I like feeling that a little bit, but there's a happy medium of not being sweating through your shirt, talking over yourself, nervous, or not caring at all. There's a middle point there. So
Yeah.
Man, it sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, it's just like anything else. Got to put in the work,
Got to put in the work, man. Got to put in the work.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Thanks for taking the time with me this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
All right. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Big thank you to Pablo for joining me on the show this week. That was cool. I love to nerd out on that health and fitness stuff for sure. Also like to thank everybody out there for listening and the feedback about the show. Always appreciate it. It's great stuff. Gives me ideas on how to improve the show, make it better for you, the listener. But with that out of the way, let's all get out there, start fixing the world one car at a time.